Welcome back to another Quick Tip Tuesday. Today we are talking all about how to get that beautiful finish we're all thriving for. Let's get started. The first step to achieving that beautiful finish starts with sanding. It's super tedious, super boring, but absolutely crucial to make sure your surface is nice and smooth before you apply your stain. I'm not going to go into depth about sanding. If you want to see how I sand my boards, click the video on the top right. The next step is very important but sometimes overlooked, and that's removing all the excess sawdust before you apply your finish. I take compressed air and then I'll go over it with a rag that's dampened with mineral spirits, let that dry, and then apply my stain. Now this is a tip I got from Paul Sellers, and that's just drilling some screws through the bottom of a piece of scrap wood. That way you can lay your workpiece on top, stain one side, flip it over, stain the other side, and you only have to worry about those tips leaving any sort of mark instead of a flat surface smearing your stain all over the place. Alright, let's get our piece on top of these screws and start staining. I like using these foam brushes. I call them squishy sticks. You want to get that board nice and saturated. We're going to wipe off the excess later, so make sure to get a decent amount of stain on that board. After you get that stain on, you want to just take nice long passes across the entirety of the board. That way you pretty much cover the surface nice and evenly and there isn't any puddles. You might be wondering why I'm using these foam brushes instead of a bristle brush. I feel like those bristles leave streak marks that I just don't like. It's really preference. I prefer these squishy sticks though. Another great tool to apply your stain is just a clean rag. Get that rag saturated and repeat the process you would as if you're using a brush. Really soak that stain on there, get it all over the place, and then make some long passes to evenly spread everything out. Once we've let that stain sit for a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and take another clean rag and just wipe away all that excess. Oh, and something I forgot to mention about applying the stain, you want to make sure there's no puddles on your board. Those puddles are going to come out darker than the rest of your board, so that's why you want to spread it out nice and evenly. And when it comes to finishes, there's a wide variety of things you can use. My two go-tos are this spray-on urethane and this brush-on water-based polyurethane. I like the spray-on for smaller projects, and I like the brush-on for larger projects. Let's go ahead and start with the spray-on. You don't want to start directly on your board. You want to start before your board and end after your board. You want to overlap each pass to make sure you get full coverage. We'll go ahead and start on the edge of our board. You want to make sure your passes are just one smooth motion across the entire board. This avoids puddling and it gives you the cleanest finish. Let's flip it over and apply it with the brush this time. Now you usually don't want to use your main canister to dip your brush in. Debris can get in there and it can show in your final product, but this is just the can I use for my home projects and for myself, so it's totally okay. But if you're putting these up for sale, keep that in mind and just use a separate cup that's clean, and that avoids any debris getting on your final piece. And we'll apply it as if we were using the can still. You just go across the entire board in one smooth motion, and once we get it saturated, I'll lightly go over the entire piece with light strokes, just spreading everything out nice and evenly. You'll usually apply 3 to 5 coats depending on whether you're using water-based or oil-based finish, and you're going to sand after every coat except for your last coat. Be sure to read your finish that you're using because they all have different dry times and when you should sand in between. Don't sand after your last coat. After each time you sand, you want to take that damp rag again and just wipe away that excess sawdust. Alright, for that final coat, you want to make sure you're going nice and light for this one. I usually just pass a little bit faster, making sure everything is really even. We're going to let that sit, we're not going to sand, so you want to just make sure everything is spread nice and lightly across your board. If you guys followed along, you should have this beautiful finish on your board. Let me know how you guys apply your finish. Let me know what I do differently, what you do differently, or let me know what I can do better. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.